Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be talking to you about nets of 3D figures. Alright, so before we get started, let's take a look at just some terms we're going to be using. First of all, a three-dimensional figure. This is any closed figure that's made up of length, width, and height. So 3 dimensions, length, width, and height. So you're probably most familiar with the two that you see here, a cylinder and a rectangular prism, okay, or what you would probably like to call a box. Alright, and then a net. A net is simply taking these three-dimensional figures that you see here and unfolding them. So if you've ever taken apart a box and it still had pieces that were connected, that was the net of that box. So we're going to take a look at how you can identify what net goes with what type of three-dimensional figure and discuss a couple other things you may have to do, like draw them. Alright, so here's an example. Given the following net, name the three-dimensional figure. So what you need to focus on when you're doing this is what shapes is the figure made up of. Okay, so notice on the sides here you have a couple of rectangles that appear to be congruent, and then in the middle you have some larger rectangles that are also congruent to each other. Okay, so if we took this shape and we folded it up along the side and long ways, what would you get? Well, eventually it would fold up to be a box. And we call that a rectangular prism, which is why I pointed out a moment ago that this is made up of rectangles. Notice the rectangles on the side here is actually what we would refer to as your two bases. Every prism, rectangular prism, triangular prism, octagonal prism, any of those have two bases, okay? One base on top, one on bottom, or side to side, that is connected, and they're connected by all the other faces, okay? And so these bases here allow us to then piece together which prism this is representing, because it is made up of rectangles. Prisms are always made up of rectangular faces all along the sides. The base, like you see here that I'm pointing at, will tell you what type of prism it is. So as we move through, you may see a couple others, and I'll point that out to you. Alright, the next one here. Notice again that this prism, if we're naming it, has rectangles. It's made up of rectangles down the middle, and you can see the two triangles on the sides. Okay, so if we took this shape and folded it up, it would again be considered a prism, but this time, because of the triangles here, this would be then named a triangular prism as opposed to a rectangular prism. The bases are where the names of these figures come from, not the actual pieces that put it together in the middle. I do realize that there are rectangles that are a part of this right here, but that actually is what makes it a prism. If those were a different shape, we would then call it something different. So because it's two triangles, two triangular bases connected by these rectangular faces, then you have what we call a triangular prism. Alright, so let's take a stab at trying to draw a few of these. Alright, so first of all, it's good to identify them for what they are first, because that can then help us draw them. So this first shape here we refer to, letter A, is a triangular prism. We just saw the net of that a moment ago. To do a triangular prism, you need to make sure that you have a triangle working as a base on either side, and then you would unfold the rectangles. So again, we'll end up having 3 rectangular faces that make up this shape, okay? And then you will have one rectangle usually near the top, and one that usually is right there near the middle, okay? And that's because this side here folds up and the other side folds down over, so it kind of comes down over like so, and when it folds up it creates almost very close to a cylinder, but with triangles on either side. Alright, and then our next shape here, this may or may not look familiar to you. This is what we call a pyramid. The difference between a prism and a pyramid, hopefully you can see, is that a pyramid comes to a peak that we call a vertex. Alright, that peak right there. And you can also see the differences is that each of the faces here of your pyramid are actually triangles. The bottom is the base. It only has one base. That base again is what defines the name. Okay, it's still a pyramid because it has triangular faces. However, what type of pyramid it would be is defined by the base. In this case, we could call this a square pyramid or even a rectangular pyramid. It doesn't really show us if it's a square or not. So we'll just refer to it as a rectangular pyramid. To create that net, what you would do is simply draw a rectangle, and at this point you can just simply surround it by triangles. So each side here we get itself a triangle, and it just folds out to make almost what appears to be a little star shape. Alright, so let's take a look at the last one here. It says name the 3D figure that the net represents. So this one's a little, we haven't seen this one yet. We've seen one like it, but not necessarily this exact one. So what you need to do when you're naming 3D figures is you first need to start with the middle figure. Okay, what's in dashed lines here? These dashed lines help us determine, again, what the base name is going to be. The base name in this case is going to be a triangle. So we call it a triangular. We just need to figure out a triangular what? Well, because it has triangles as faces on the outside that will fold up, that's what's going to make it a pyramid. So this is a triangular pyramid. Alright, this has been a quick tutorial on how to name 3D figures. Thank you for joining me.